Hello and welcome to Clay Pigeon Kart Club on the 14th of May 2023. It's time for the two Counties Kart Club Championship to open their account for the year as the Senior Blues are lined up on the grid ready to go for their final here this afternoon. In Heat 1 it was a victory for Joey Foster. Anthony Cleo hot on his heels ahead of Dave Watts, Steve Groves and Robin Stones completing the top 5. Number 99 Max Gunter in 6th ahead of Kevin O'Neill and Alex Fortune, with Rob Mortimer and Paul Alexander completing the top 10. Stuart Adam would follow them home in 11th ahead of Chris Underhill, Kieran Quirk, Chris Lord and Paul Wheeler to complete the top 15. In Heat 2 it was a win for Anthony Cleo with Paul Alexander moving up into 2nd, Steve Groves 3rd ahead of Kieran Quirk and Rob Mortimer, with Chris Underhill, Robin Stones, Kevin O'Neill, Paul Wheeler and Stuart Adam to complete the top 10 ahead of Gunter, Dave Watts, Toby Cook, John Hartshorn and Alex Fortune to round out the top 15. In Heat 3 it was a win for the O-Plate, Dave Watts ahead of Anthony Cleo, Joey Foster also within 3.5 tenths in 3rd, Kieran Quirk 4th ahead of Paul Alexander, Steve Groves, Max Gunter, Kevin O'Neill, Rob Mortimer and Chris Underhill to complete the top 10. As the karts are out onto their rolling lap, led out there by number 1 Anthony Cleo. We're on board with Dave Watts following him out, and the grid order is going to look like this as we have a problem for number 4 Steve Groves. That's a delayed start, hopefully he can get up and running. That's Mark Cook and Sylvain Vessia diving in to help, but the pack is underway as it's Anthony Cleo leading them round. Steve Groves would be alongside him on the front row. Yellow plate Dave Watts in 3rd ahead of Paul Alexander with Kieran Quirk and Joey Foster on row 3. Robin Stones beats out Kevin O'Neill and Rob Mortimer in a three-way tie-break, a single point ahead of Max Gunter to complete the top 10. Chris Underhill and Stuart Adam on row 6 ahead of Paul Wheeler and Alex Fortune. John Hartshorn 15th ahead of Chris Lord and Toby Cook, and the grid rounded out by number 7 Nigel Vickery, the Welshman. He's hoping to have a better run through the final than he did in the heats as the grid rounds buttons, and there the hands up in the air signalling we are going around one more time. I would assume that is for Steve Groves to retake his position, and sure enough it is, as here comes Groves making his way all the way back up to the front row. There we go, going past Paul Wheeler and Stuart Adam, so Groves will be back in his rightful place as the pack heads around towards the Sturmey Straight. So 2 rolling laps for the pack, and there is Steve Groves taking his spot back, well earned on the front row alongside Anthony Cleo. So here we are hopping on board with Max Gunter, top 10 position for Gunter. That's Kevin O'Neill and Rob Mortimer, both with orange helmets in front of us, as Anthony Cleo now going to back the pack up through the horseshoe. 12 minutes plus a lap in store this afternoon, so a long race for the Senior Blues, and it's just about to head through buttons, now up towards Top Bend. Hop back on board with Dave Watts, that's Cleo and Groves on the front row. Look for Cleo, look for the lights as we head out of Pit Bend and down towards the start line. Anthony Cleo keeping the pack very backed up indeed, and leaving it quite late, but away we go, and the two Counties Kart Club Championship is underway, and it's a good start from Cleo. Joey Foster attacking Paul Alexander on the outside, Kieran Quirk up in there as well as we hop on board with Paul Wheeler, and we're going to ride over the back of John Hartshorn, 3 abreast through Billy's and now through the chicane. That's Hartshorn and Cook on the outside, and contact made, and Cook flies up in the air and into the wall. John Hartshorn slow away as well, and that is really unfortunate, not the way you want to start the race, but the pack flies through the hand hairpin and through the horseshoe and now up towards buttons, and it's Cleo leading from Foster and Steve Groves in 3rd. A mistake there from Cleo through Pit Bend lets Joey Foster get right in his bumper, but Groves in 3rd ahead of Alexander, Watts, Quirk and the rest of the pack. That's Chris Underhill attacking Stuart Adam further back as they end the first lap. Robin Stones there in 7th position, but it's through the chicane. Cleo, Foster, Groves, Alexander and co. And that is Chris Underhill and Nigel Vickery both making up places against Stuart Adam. And now Vickery looking down the inside of Chris Underhill. So Nigel Vickery making good progress in the early stages. We hop on board with Max Gunter. In number 42 in front of us is Rob Mortimer and the all-white Mac Minarelli as they head up towards Pit Bend. There's Toby Cook, got him back going again, but the leaders still bumper-to-bumper stuff as they head down to finish the next lap. Dave Watts further back looking at Paul Alexander, and that's side by side. That is Paul Wheeler making the move against Stuart Adam. But through the chicane they go. It's Cleo and Foster starting to open up a little bit of a gap to 3rd place. Kevin O'Neill there chasing down Max Gunter as they head round the Han hairpin. Dave Watts tucked up tight behind Paul Alexander. Kieran Quirk in behind him as well. And they're all chasing Steve Groves for third position. Robin Stoddart Stone's trying to go with them. Then there's a bit of a gap opening up back to Mortimer, Gunter and O'Neill. Then comes Vickery and Chris Underhill, as that's Toby Cook there waving the pack through as they go across the line. Dave Watts looking to try and take advantage to get down the inside of Paul Alexander. Nothing doing there though. Kieran Quirk attacking him as well on the outside. And bumper to bumper for the lead. Up the Sturmey straight. Joey Foster to the inside of the Han hairpin. Down the inside he goes to take the lead, but Cleel back underneath. The number one retakes the lead ahead of Joey Foster. Round the horseshoe they go and up in towards Buttons. These two, the top two in the championship last year, starting the season as they mean to go on already. And out of pit bend they go. There's Groves. Watts is up to fourth. He's past Paul Alexander. Now he's got his sights set on Steve Groves. Kieran Quirk tucked up behind them as well. Then it's Stoddart Stones. Then it's Mortimer, Gunter, O'Neill as back on board with Dave Watts through the chicane. And we've got the run against Steve Groves. Down the inside goes the O-plate. Into the Han hairpin. Good move from Dave Watts. Covers Steve Groves off on exit. And Watts up to third. Further back there, that is Nigel Vickery coming up to put a lap on Toby Cook. And just ahead of them, Max Gunter all over the back of Rob Mortimer. Kevin O'Neill in there as well. Still bumper to bumper stuff for the lead. Watts now up to third. Kieran Quirk attacking Paul Alexander. And that's Max Gunter moving up alongside Rob Mortimer. As across the line they go. This is the battle for 8th place. Through Billy's blind they go. In behind there, that's Chris Underhill closing in against Nigel Vickery, and Paul Wheeler in touch as well. Still bumper to bumper for the lead though as they head round the Han hairpin and into the horseshoe. Dave Watts trying to bridge that gap, but now Steve Groves under attack from the red speed of Paul Alexander. Kieran Quirk in behind in the Octane. As up around pit bend they go. Looks like Watts is starting to close that gap down. Kieran Quirk still right underneath the back bumper of Alexander, and that's Toby Cook making his way back up through the pack. He's on the tail of Kevin O'Neill now, and Kieran Quirk looking to the inside of Paul Alexander for the chicane. Nothing doing there though. Quirk's going to have to back out and he's going to lose a lot of time. Robin Stoddart Stones now coming into attacking range. Nothing doing it down the Sturmey straight though, as further back that's Kevin O'Neill looking at Max Gunter. Toby Cook in behind, and Nigel Vickery's running with him as well. So Vickery pulling a bit of a gap to Chris Underhill. Through the infield section they go. Hopping now up on board with Kevin O'Neill up into pit bend, and that is Toby Cook up the inside, and Nigel Vickery's followed him through. So a good move there from the number 7 Nigel Vickery, taking advantage of Toby Cook unlapping himself. And he gains the place. Back on board with Foster, and we're down the inside again into the Han hairpin. This time Foster blocks the cut back, but Anthony Cleel's going to hang on round the outside and back up the inside through the horseshoe. So Anthony Cleel retains the lead. All this battling is giving Dave Watts a chance to close in. And there's the proof. Dave Watts in the Tony Kart starting to get a bit closer. Then it's Groves, Alexander and Quirk all still running together. Bumper to bumper stuff this. Joe Foster looking for any way past Anthony Cleel as they go through the chicane and up the Sturmey straight. There's Watts third, then Groves, Alexander and Quirk. So Alexander having to defend from Kieran Quirk while trying to re-close in against Steve Groves. Stoddart Stones in behind in a bit of no man's land, but further back that's Toby Cook looking to try and get up through against Max Gunter. No way through there though, as Gunter's still on his pursuit against Rob Mortimer. Kevin O'Neill and Nigel Vickery battling in behind. Is down the start finish they go once again. Kieran Quirk thinking about looking to the inside. Further back Max Gunter's got the run out against Rob Mortimer, but unable to get alongside. Because now we hop back on board with Kevin O'Neill, who's got a lot of closing speed against Vickery. Vickery there on the carburettor though, so potentially a problem for the number 7 for the Welshman. But up the track we go, and that is Paul Alexander having to really defend the inside against Kieran Quirk. As we're hopping on board with Rob Mortimer, and that's Max Gunter up the inside and Toby Cook. So Cook unlapping himself, Max Gunter making the move for position, and now Rob Mortimer in behind as Kevin O'Neill moving up alongside Nigel Vickery round the outside for Buttons. Not able to make the move stick with Vickery still on the carb, and O'Neill up the inside in pit bend. Good move there from Kevin O'Neill. And Chris Underhill's followed him through. Vickery must have a problem. Hopefully he's going to get that sorted and get back into the race as Paul Wheeler now on his case. Meanwhile, the leader's still bumper to bumper. It's Cleel from Foster. Dave Watts in third at an arm's distance. Then for fourth, it's Groves, Alexander and Quirk still close together. As out of top bend go the leaders. Bumper to bumper stuff down the straight. And here comes Kieran Quirk looking to get the run out against Paul Alexander. Nothing doing down in Billy's blind. Foster still in behind, but almost touching there is Quirk and Alexander as we hop on board with Steve Groves through the chicane and up the Sturmey Straight. We're in fourth place on board with the Cosmic, but here comes Paul Alexander in the red speed. Number 9 down the inside into fourth. Can Groves get the switch back? Looks like he's done it, but he's on the wrong side for the horseshoe. Paul Alexander makes the move up into fourth. Meanwhile, we jump back on board with Paul Wheeler, and that's Nigel Vickery going for a switchback against Chris Underhill. Nothing doing there though. Through the horseshoe they go, and Foster for the lead down the inside, and there's contact. Foster's going to run wide. Steve Groves now being overtaken by Kieran Quirk. Good power on the straight from Quirk, but he's going to run wide, and Groves back up the inside. Changing for fifth position, then further back that's Vickery. Straight line round the outside against Chris Underhill. So positions all are changing into Billy's blind on this lap. Meanwhile, Steve Groves back underneath Kieran Quirk, and he's holding that position for the time being. But for the lead, that gap has opened up to about as big as it's ever been this race. Now Kieran Quirk lining up Steve Groves once again for another move. As we hop on board with Paul Wheeler. Ahead of us is number 12 Chris Underhill as we down now to Billy's blind. Groves and Quirk bumper to bumper. Can Quirk get the run out up the Sturmey Straight? Doesn't look like it for this lap. There's Paul Wheeler chasing the fellow Tony Kart driver of Chris Underhill as they go through the chicane. He's back on board with Groves once again, and there goes Kieran Quirk down the inside in the Octane through the horseshoe, and number 27 is up to 5th. As there's the leaders are starting to reel in Stuart Adam down towards Billy's blind. Cleel up in tight behind, and Cleel going for the inside into the chicane. He's hit Adam and there's contact. Cleel up in the air. Joey Foster going 4x4, Dave Watts goes through into second, and Cleel and Adam stuck on the exit of the chicane. Through goes Robin Stoddart Stones, but for the lead now Joey Foster inherits it. Dave Watts has closed in majorly. Paul Alexander up into third now, as there's Anthony Cleel. He's got back going ahead of Max Gunter and co. Stuart Adam also back running as well, and he's going to drop back through the pack, as in behind there that's Paul Wheeler and Chris Underhill side by side. But back to the start finish, there's Alexander in third, Quirk up to fourth, Groves in fifth, Robin Stoddart Stones in sixth, and there's Gunter starting to pull away from Rob Mortimer, but Kevin O'Neill starting to track him back in. Nigel Vickery on the attack as well, as here goes Chris Underhill and Paul Wheeler passing Stuart Adam down towards Billy's blind. Paul Wheeler's had his sights set on Chris Underhill for quite a while now, and that gap's starting to inch in once again, as there's Cleel ahead of Gunter, Mortimer and Kevin O'Neill tucked up right behind him. In behind there that's Chris Underhill running deep, Paul Wheeler with a switchback, and Paul Wheeler makes the place. So a good move there for Wheeler. Across the line to start another lap goes the group for third. There's Robin Stoddart Stones in the foreground. Anthony Cleel now trying to chase him back in as we hop on board with Kevin O'Neill. Rob Mortimer in front of us down to Billy's blind. And in front of Mortimer is the Praga of Max Gunter. Through the chicane we go, and up the Sturmey Straight. And up ahead of them is Anthony Cleel. And right in behind that's Nigel Vickery. Vickery's obviously fixed his issue, and he's now running right on the tail of Kevin O'Neill. So it's 3 in a line behind Rob Mortimer. As round buttons we go, up towards top bend. O'Neill thinks about looking for the inside, but he's chosen to try and get the run out on exit. He's going to run up alongside. Vickery going to spy a gap as well. They're going to go 3 together down to Billy's blind. All line astern so far though, as we go through the chicane. Through the right, through the left, and up the Sturmey Straight. Rob Mortimer ahead of us, running on the racing line, not feeling the need to defend. Kevin O'Neill has Nigel Vickery switching all over the back bumper, but O'Neill's got his sights set on what's in front of him, as there go the leaders. Dave Watts tracking Joey Foster, that gap coming down and down. Of course, Foster come from 6th on the grid. He's now in the lead of the race, and now here comes Kevin O'Neill tucked up tight behind Rob Mortimer. Mortimer goes for the hand choke. Will that give O'Neill an opportunity? Sure enough it does, but Rob Mortimer is going to hang on round the outside, and Vickery is going to be trying to line him up for the chicane. Nothing doing there though for Nigel Vickery, and Kevin O'Neill now has to close that gap once again. Vickery is swarming all over his back bumper though, as a hop on board with the O-plate as we go across the line to start the second to last lap. Joey Foster leading the way still. There's Alexander, Quirk, Steve Groves still in 5th ahead of Robin Stoddart-Stones, then Cleel, then Gunter. So the highest up position, that's still a pretty strong fight, is Rob Mortimer, with Kevin O'Neill and Nigel Vickery right in touch as we go through the chicane. O'Neill looks to set up for the run on exit. He's going to the inside line down towards the hand hairpin, and through goes Kevin O'Neill. Nigel Vickery trying to follow through, but O'Neill's going to run wide. Rob Mortimer gets back underneath, and Nigel Vickery still stuck in behind as they head through Buttons, as the leader's now on their last lap. Anthony Cleel siding towards Robin Stoddart-Stones, and here comes Rob Mortimer. Kevin O'Neill and Nigel Vickery still bumper to bumper, but only 3 turns to go now for Joey Foster, as through Billy's Blind goes the battle for 9th position through the chicane and up the Sturmey Straight once again. We know Kevin O'Neill is fast, but round the final corner and heading down towards the line to take the victory in round 1 of the 2 Counties Kart Club Championship. Joey Foster takes it ahead of Dave Watts. A hard charge there from the O-plate to keep the gap very close down at the end. And that's Paul Alexander in 9th. Number 9, he finishes 3rd but spins it in front of the camera. But across the line, Rob Mortimer just about holding off Kevin O'Neill. Nigel Vickery in tight behind him. There's Paul Wheeler finishing. Then comes Chris Underhill, and Stuart Adam will round out our finishers out of pit bend. But what a race that was. Excitement from start to finish. There's good respect shown by the drivers towards the marshals and the camera folk. And the results will stand. Joey Foster takes the win by 9/10 of a second ahead of Dave Watts. Paul Alexander moves up to 3rd ahead of Kieran Quirk. Steve Groves going to slip back to 5th but rounds out the top 5 ahead of Robin Stoddart-Stones. Anthony Cleel recovers to 7th ahead of Max Gunter and Rob Mortimer, with Kevin O'Neill rounding out the top 10. Nigel Vickery up from the back of the grid to 11th ahead of Paul Wheeler, with Chris Underhill 13th ahead of Stuart Adam. Toby Cook coming in early, likewise John Hartshorn, and 2 DNSs for Alex Fortune and Chris Lord are going to complete the results of the race. And that is it for round 1 of the 2 Counties Kart Club Championship. Dave Watts is going to lead the way after the first round, only a point ahead of Joey Foster, and then a 3-way tie for 3rd with Anthony Cleel pipping out Paul Alexander and Steve Groves. Kieran Quirk in 6th ahead of Robin Stoddart-Stones. Max Gunter beats out Rob Mortimer and Kevin O'Neill on tie break to round out the top 10. Chris Underhill 11th ahead of Paul Wheeler, Stuart Adam, Nigel Vickery and John Hartshorn, with Toby Cook, Alex Fortune and Chris Lord completing the scoring drivers. Plenty of other drivers waiting to get their season underway though, so it should be a good one. 6 rounds with the best 5 to count, so still everyone's game. In the Blue Masters standings, it's Joey Foster leading the way after round 1 ahead of Cleel, Alexander and Groves, all even on 5 points. Robin Stoddart-Stones going to round out the top 5 ahead of Rob Mortimer, Kevin O'Neill, Chris Underhill, Paul Wheeler and Stuart Adam to complete the top 10. Ahead of Nigel Vickery, John Hartshorn, Alex Fortune and Chris Lord. In the Blue Veteran standings, this is the next subclass. It's going to be a lead for Paul Alexander heading out of round 1. Anthony Cleel and Steve Groves even on 4 points in behind ahead of Robin Stoddart-Stones, with Rob Mortimer running at the top 5 beating out Kevin O'Neill on tiebreak. Paul Wheeler in behind ahead of Chris Underhill, with Nigel Vickery, John Hartshorn and Chris Lord to complete the top 11 and all of the scoring drivers. In the Blue Legends subclass, it's Robin Stoddart-Stones going to be leading after round 1 with a win on the day ahead of Kevin O'Neill. Chris Underhill in 3rd ahead of John Hartshorn and Chris Lord to complete the top 5 in the over 60s class.
I got a feeling.
And the one remaining subclass is the Blue Top Weights. A lights to flag victory in that class for Paul Alexander leaves him at the top of the table ahead of Rob Mortimer, and Stuart Adam is going to be in 3rd place. That's all for the 2 Counties Kart Club Championship from Clay Pigeon. Join us next time for the 5th round of the NKRA Blue Challenge, and that will be from a Lid International Kart Club. So we shall see you then. Goodbye.